There's olive oil, and then there's Aubocassa olive oil made at a 12th century farmstead in Mallorca. I'm Courtney Drake McDonough, the publisher of Real Food Traveler, a digital culinary travel magazine, and the host of the Real Food Traveler podcast. Visiting the property to learn more and sample both olive oil and wine is a must when visiting this beautiful island in Spain. Join me for a chat under the shade of a tree with Tiffany Blackman, who's the manager of Aubocassa, which makes olive oil in a very unique way.
Good day. My name's Tiffany Blackman. I am the manager here at Aubocassa, which is an olive grove where we make extra virgin olive oil here in Mallorca.
Wonderful. And where on the island are we?
So the closest town to us is Manacor, which is now world famous because of our very famous tennis player. But we're actually between Felanitx, Manacor, and Petra. We're exactly in the middle.
And you speak perfect English. So tell me a little bit about who you are and how you came to be in this business.
So Aubocassa actually, the site where we are is actually from the 12th century, and I have not been around that long. This business started about 30 years ago, and I've now been here almost 13 years, developing the management and the site where we now welcome people to come visit us and see how we make the olive oil. This year actually is our 25th anniversary. So it's a wonderful time to come here because we're in celebration mode. And we've been making extra virgin olive oil for the last 25 years.
And is it strictly extra virgin olive oil or other products as well?
No, we do exclusively extra virgin premium olive oil.
Mm-hmm. And who is that sold to?
Well, right now we're actually selling to about 28 different countries. So we do sell all over the world. And of course, premium products are usually products for people who appreciate and who actually know more about, I'm going to say, the product or the subject. In the case of olive oil, I have found now years and years of showing people around that olive oil is a very popular product, but not very well known. People don't really know how it's made. They don't really understand what the product is. So one of our objectives here is actually to show people around and explain why our olive oil is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Olive oil kind of had a resurgence in maybe the past 10, 20 years as people became more aware of their health and the benefits of the Mediterranean diet. Have you noticed that over the course of years? Have you noticed interest, at least from the United States, or has it always been steady?
It's actually, it's not coming from one side. The extra virgin olive oil industry there's been a huge revolution in that sector in the last 25 years, in which we're part of. We're pioneers in making this type of olive oil. So it's not just that the interest, but also the sector has changed. Also, people are researching it more and we're explaining it more. So it's actually coming from both sides. In the United States, people are very healthy oriented, but there's still a lot to show and to learn about olive oil.
Would you say the United States, which is the bulk of our listeners, would you say we know the least or understand the least about olive oil?
No. Actually, it's very interesting because even Spain, that is the biggest producer of olive oil in the world, the people really don't know it because this is a product that's been done by man for the last 5,000 years. So things have developed over these years, but we know in the Mediterranean diet the extra virgin olive oil is good for you. But people, we just know it's kind of like in there. But now people are researching it, and that's what's interesting for us as well, because the clients that we get here and the visitors that come to Aubocassa are also very interested in the subject, which is wonderful for us because they're great listeners and then wonderful consumers.
For those listening who aren't familiar with the whole process, and I know it's rather involved, but in an essence, how does one make olive oil?
I'm not going to explain how anybody else does it. Since you're at Aubocassa, we're going to explain what we do here and what makes us pioneers in making olive oil of a certain type. We changed the way olive oil was made. And the main point is that we're not making a vegetable oil that comes from olives. The way we make it here is we look at it and we change the paradigm. What we make here is a fresh extracted olive juice. That is what we make. And how we do it is quite a long process, and I invite anybody who's listening to come and see it. But there are three important factors. One is when we pick the olive. So traditionally, olives are always picked when they're very mature, therefore more oil. In our case, we pick them when there's three colors on the tree. So green, the intermediate color, which is pink, a yellow pink. And then when it's mature, it's actually a dark red. It looks like a cherry. We don't pick when they're black. So that's one of our main points, is that we get all of the aromas and all the, the incredible tastes and aromas of a juice. That's the first part. I should have said that the first part is that we have a monovarietal of Arbequina. So most people don't know there's over 1,000 types of olives in the world. And usually most olive oils, or up until 25 years ago, most olive oils were mixed. So different types of olives all over Europe. I mean, all over the Mediterranean, it's always been mixed. We do a monovarietal. So we make it of one type of olive, and we pick them where traditionally they're not being picked. So traditionally they're mature, and in our case, we pick the three colors. And then there's one very important factor as well, is that we don't try to get the maximum oil out of the olive. Okay. And just as a to be able to understand that, for a liter of olive oil, traditionally people use, or companies use, about 4 kilos, which in pounds I think is 8 pounds, of olives per liter. In our case, our average is about 8.5, so more than double. And some years it's even 10 and 11. So we don't extract the maximum, we just get the best. So there's a lot of other small things that I could add. In a nutshell, it's monovarietal, when we pick, and how we make the process. Just to add to that, we actually have at Aubocassa one of the most modern mills in the world that we brought 7 years ago, which is also helping us to make this amazing product.
So what would happen if you were using black olives? You wouldn't have as much juice?
Well, the black olives don't have the freshness of the aromas or the tastes. Black olives make I'm going to say sweeter olive oil in the mouth. Mm-hmm. And the point also is that because we do a monovarietal, we're getting the real juice of that olive. It's not a mix. And in our case, Arbequina is a very elegant and a very soft olive oil, very silky. It's not astringent, it's not bitter, it's not sharp in the mouth, which most of the olive oils in the world are like that. So ours is very elegant, which also makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And did you say you're using one specific variety of?
Yes, it's called Arbequina. It's a very small olive. It grows all over Spain, but mainly in the south. In the north of the mainland, and obviously on the islands. And then in certain areas, it's the same, but it has a different name. And it depends of the climate. So Arbequina is different in Mallorca than is in Catalonia, for example. Mm-hmm. So the profile is similar, but it's different. Obviously, climate is important.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so it's a different mouthfeel. It sounds like different flavor. Does that then mean that uses of it are different as you'd recommend? Like, I use olive oil just as it is, but I also cook with it quite mm-hmm. a bit. Would one still cook with it, or would that be putting it at a disadvantage and not enjoying it the way it ought to be enjoyed?
Yeah, I get that question a lot about temperature and cooking, but actually I'll take a step back and explain to you. When we talk about the profile of the olive oil, it's completely different. So you've obviously tasted other olive oils from, Italy or Spain or Greece, and they do have a different profile. But I'll turn it around for you. What is it you want your food to do? So, for example, one of our main countries of export is Japan, because the Japanese food is very elegant. And if you put a very strong olive oil on a absolutely divine fish, it would take over. But by putting an arbequina on it, what it does is that it brings out the best in the fish. So it's not so much about the heat or the cold, which is another subject, but what you want your food to do. The same, one of my favorite subjects, tomatoes. If you have an extraordinary tomato, if you add olive oil, it has to enhance the taste of the tomato. Most tomatoes around the world have become a texture and a color. They're tasteless. So therefore, if you add strong olive oil, very tasty and very bitter or astringent, then it will take over the tomato. So it will be, the beautiful taste that we're getting. So it's more about the food and what you want it to do than actually another, what you're saying. And when it comes to temperature, most of the olive oils in the world are very intense in taste. Okay, and I say most because that's what people have been doing for centuries. And usually, when they make it, and they tell you it's a bit. I guess the word would be pica. It's sharp in the mouth, and that is what keeps the acidity for a very long time. So it's more what olives you're using, how long it holds the heat. So, for example, in the south of Spain, even breakfast is fried. So, it's, but if you take an arbequina, you can heat it, but you just don't need to burn it. So it's a question of temperature.
So do you recommend people have sort of a selection of different types of your olive oils depending on what they're trying to achieve?
People who are interested in olive oil actually do. So it's not something I would recommend. What I do recommend is to have maybe two open. But when you're talking about premium olive oil, how you keep it is actually very important. So once you've opened the bottle, then consume it. Because like you would never open a wonderful bottle of wine and let it oxidize. In olive oil, it's the same. It does oxidize much, much slower than wine, obviously, but it does oxidize. So if you open a good bottle of olive oil or one you love, then consume it and then open another one. Don't have 4 open and then use them over a year. That's my recommendation.
And what about the theory about keeping them in the dark? Is that still true?
It's not a theory, it's a fact.
Okay.
Most companies that make premium olive oil will always put their oils in a dark bottle because the two enemies of olive oil are actually light and air. And having said that, heat is one of them, but it comes also from the light. So if too much heat, it's not good for it. But light and air are the two enemies of olive oil. So that's why premium olive oil companies usually have darker bottles, even though we know that marketing-wise, it's not the best.
Right. You miss out on that gorgeous color.
But the color, and this is a very interesting fact, the color has no incidence at all in the taste or the smell of an olive oil. So when we do an official olive oil tasting, we use blue glasses because we do not see the color. Very often I hear people say, oh, I just love that dark olive oil from wherever. And the point is the color comes from the olive. It has no incidence at all in the taste or the smell. So you can have very dark olive oil that is tasteless, it doesn't smell of anything. But you can have a beautifully golden color that is incredibly aromatic. So officially, we never look at the color.
Wow, interesting. I had no idea. I just always assumed lighter color meant lighter flavor and darker color meant more intense flavor.
So I rest my case.
Right.
People don't know about the subject, and it's not. When I say that, it's not to make anybody feel like they don't know. People just don't know. When it comes to wine, there's tons of experts in the world, but when it comes to olive oil, there's a lot of. It's been happening for so long. 5,000 years is a long time, and things. Just kind of get transmitted. Yeah. But after your visit in Aubocassa, you will never think of olive oil the same.
Right. Well, that leads perfectly into my next question. Tell us what the experience is like of coming here. What does one get to do and see?
Oh, how much time do we have? No, this experience here is actually I think it's a life-altering thing, and I don't say that lightly. Being able to come to enjoy a space like this is a beautiful 12th century finca that has been very respectfully refurbished. And we get to walk through the olive grove. So we do tell a little about the history of the place. This is an area of Mallorca that's off your beaten path because it's a complete agricultural area. So it's not somewhere people, when people find us, now with Google Maps it's easier, but in the old days I used to applaud when people found us, right? Because it's really, we're in the middle of agriculture. So, we do tell a bit of the history of the place, and then we have this beautiful walk through the olive grove. We put everybody a little bit in perspective, explain how the olive tree, it's the seasons, how, what it does, and how we work. And then we do go a little bit more into the technicalities about olive oil so people really understand. And then the visit finishes in the mill. So we explain technically what we do here and what it is that we do so differently from other olive oils that makes us so special. Because it's not only the spot that's beautiful, but it's also what we do here. And then we finish the visit with an olive oil tasting and explain to people how they can olive oil taste so that then they can go home and buy their favorite and taste it.
Right, right. And can people purchase olive oil from you here?
They can purchase.
Okay, good. And does one need to make reservations to come visit you?
Yes, we have a website where you can make a reservation for whatever time. We have different times depending of the year. So because the seasons change, our times also change because we depend on the weather. So we actually, yeah. So anybody can go into our website, experiences, and make a reservation to come see us.
And is there a charge for coming to visit?
Yeah, we have different charges, but the olive oil is it's 30 euros per person. But we also have experiences with wine because our company also makes wine. So there's different experiences with just olive oil and wine.
And there are some similarities between wine and olive oil, right? In terms of all the intricacies of going into making it and the results.
I would say that there's an invisible line, but they are Mediterranean crops and they do follow each other. But in the end, the product is completely different because wine needs a time. It needs, the more you hold it, the better it can get. Whereas olive oil is actually the opposite. So you have to make the olive oil and consume it. That's when it's best. And in wine, you can keep it for years and years. And, now we know hundreds of years, actually. Well, we know 100. But, 30 years of wine can still keep. Olive oil, not.
So even if you haven't opened the olive oil bottle, you still should consume it.
Olive oil, to make a comparison, olive oil, you could almost say that it's like an orange juice, but I'm not going to say that. I just said it, but I'm not going to say it, right?
Okay.
But it's basically the best time is when it's first made. And then it starts very slowly, very, very slowly, it starts to change. So even kept at its best, it will change. Then everybody can consume as they go.
Okay. Well, let's talk about how people can get to making reservations and learning more about you. Tell us what your website is and if you're on social media, where we can find you.
So if I say Aubocassa, people will not be able to spell it. So I will spell it for you. The website is AUB for Barcelona, AC for Charlotte,
Okay.
ASSA.com. And we are on social media. Of course, we found that we're Aubocassa everywhere because nobody had that site. So we're Aubocassa on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and also on LinkedIn.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I encourage everybody to check you out on your website and on social media and follow you. And of course, book plans to come to Mallorca and come to see you and enjoy everything that you have here. And I'm with my group and I'm going to get to have the tour and the tasting. So I haven't had the experience yet, but I can't wait, especially after having talked to you. Even though I've been having olive oil all my life, obviously there's so much more to learn and so much more to experience.
So everybody's welcome. We'll be here waiting.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed my chat with Tiffany, learning more about their special techniques to honor the land and the farmstead's history while making products to be enjoyed now. This is an excellent example of what Real Food Traveler is all about, experiencing the local cuisine when you visit a destination. As always, we have an article on realfoodtraveler.com that accompanies this podcast episode with photos from my visit and live links to Aubocassa's website. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.